How to get rich. Do we all want to get rich? I think a lot of us do. So, how do you do it? Well, probably my one of my favorite stories is a guy called Ronald Read. He was a garage attendant, so you can imagine the salary he would have got across his lifetime. If you don't know the story, um, I'm going to tell it to you. And I think because I actively trade stocks, he he's the other version. So if you have a job and you can't actively trade, not that actively trading is any better. Um, I often ponder my own choices. Should should I actively trade, or should I trade like Ronald Read? Well, how did Ronald Read trade, and how did he end up? Right. Well, he was a janitor in the States, and he put away at the end of the month any money left over. He bought some stocks. He bought all your regulars: Procter and Gamble, Johnson and Johnson, Exxon, Bank of America. I guess maybe any company he liked, used, thought had longevity, he purchased. And one of the tricks he did, I've heard about. There's been a few studies. I think they call it coffee can investing, where once it's in the coffee can, you never sell. So you only purchase. So Ronald Read ended up with a portfolio of around, I think it was around 90 stocks. And I believe, he never sold. Um, in the end, it paid him $20,000 a month in dividend income. And the value upon his death was around $8 million. Now, just remember, this is a garage janitor. So I don't know the salary. I'm guessing in today's money, 20,000, and that's probably increased over the decades that he did the job. What's really interesting is there's stories of him. He didn't tell anyone, or very few, what he was doing. I don't think he ever spoke about the value. He was just like, oh yeah, I buy some stocks. That's as far as the conversations went. But he took an active interest in investing. The crucial bit I think most people don't do today is he lived well within his means. So I'm guessing his rent or his housing costs were low. I believe he kept a lower value car. I don't think he blew all his money on holidays. He was frugal. Frugal probably, like if there's a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most frugal you can be, I'm guessing he was around a 9. However, he was actively involved in his community. There's lots of stories about how he'd go to the various clubs on the days that they were held. And so you could say had a very full life. But the lovely bit for me is that I always get, well, you get a little bit of hate from people that are on a low salary, and they're like, oh, it's fine for you. Oh, it's all right for you. And oh, well, you earn more, and therefore that defines that they, in inverted commas, are poor. Well, it's absolute bull, because here's a guy lived within his means, just like whatever your salary is, you need to live within it. And the more you can live within it, the more you can invest. And anyway, he built up this portfolio. He just added and added and added. And a few of the businesses no longer exist. Like, for example, he had Lehman Brothers stock. They're gone. There's various others in the portfolio that are gone. But it didn't matter, because he built up this big diversified portfolio across all the sectors. And that was not his special skill set. But like when you look at Berkshire, it's a similar story. They do sell, but I think there's even analysis that Berkshire, I should probably find the study, that if Berkshire had never sold, they would be much better off than they currently are. I'm clutching at a bit of a straw there, but I'm sure I've heard someone talk about the study into that. So if someone said to me, I got a job, but I want to have a portfolio, how do I get the best out of it? I'd be like, there's two things. One, I love the S&P, so I'd be buying a lot of that. And then two, if I wanted to buy other stocks, just to make it more interesting than just buying the S&P, because when you call up your online account and you just have an S&P line, it's a bit boring. You buy some other stuff. You buy your Exxons, you buy your pharmaceuticals, you buy your industrials, you buy some other stocks. And you never sell. So all you do each month, you chuck in as much as you can, you buy more stocks. Next month, chuck in as much as you can, buy more stocks. It becomes addictive. And even if it's just $50 or $10, or you can roll a janitor, garage attendant salary into 8 million. He's defined what is possible. If you're a little bit frugal, you'd buy, and I was going to say buy and hold, but it's not just buy and hold. It's just, you have to think of it. I have an ownership stake in Procter & Gamble. I have an ownership stake in Moderna. I have an ownership stake in Exxon and Apple and Amazon and Netflix and whatever it may be. And to some extent, you never want to sell. Well, in his perfect example, the trouble is, once you think you can sell, you think you can time the market. And there is so much proof that humans cannot time the market. That I kind of love the fact that he's never sold the share. He's just bought. And then you get this cash income, because a lot of these companies will pay their shareholders in the dividend payments. I think most of his rolled back in and he lived off the salary he received. But let's say, you wanted a slightly different circumstances. The beauty in what he's done is the buying. So I find it fascinating. And before you buy that next trinket, maybe think how I like to frame it is, well, am I excited to buy the t-shirt or the new pair of trainers or the whatever? Or am I excited to buy more Exxon stock? Oh, I think I'm more excited to buy Exxon stock. And the way to value, like the price of a coffee, is not that it costs you $10. The way to price a coffee is what $10 could be in 10 years' time, which by most compounding accounts, $10 is $100 in 10 years' time, and so on and so on. So it's not actually the price you're paying, it's the amount you're foregoing for that to be in your portfolio and the compounding of that $10 on coffees for that one day. And then imagine all those days from this day to that and the compounding effect of that money. So I guess what I would want to instill in my kids is, don't get excited about buying yourself another t-shirt, get excited about buying yourself another stock, another part of that business. I'm often telling my son that we have Roblox stock. I often tell my daughter that we have Lululemon stock, and we have Tesla stock. So when they see some product or we go past some shop, I'm like, we own the minutest amount of this company. Isn't that exciting? So before you go and buy another pair of yoga pants, let's just buy their stock instead, because that's more fun. Oh, bless me. So anyway, it's a cool story. You don't often hear it. We always hear about Bill Ackman and Carl Icahn and all these gazillionaires. But here we are, a regular janitor finishing up with 8 million. Boom. That's it.